Hey there, second grade artists. So, if you watched the last video about making the apple, I used chalk to create that apple with realistic shadows and highlights, and we're going to use chalk again, but a variety of colors to create a harvest still life. So I have pumpkins, sunflowers, a scarecrow, some other cool fall stuff in there. So you at home can do fall stuff based on the images in the slideshow that I send out, or you might even have fall stuff at your house. Maybe you decorated pumpkins or jack-o'-lanterns. Or you could just gather objects in your house that have meaning to you and are important to you, and then you could arrange them to draw them, because a still life is an arrangement of objects on a table. So it could be any kind of object on a table that you draw by looking at the shapes with your eyes. So I'm going to start by using just light brown, and I'm going to fill my page. I don't want to draw just one object, like right here, super small. I don't want to just draw two objects. I want to draw at least 5 objects. Uno, dos, tres, cuatro, cinco. At least 5 objects, because then they'll overlap, they'll fill the page. It'll be more interesting to look at. Because if you just have 1 or 2 things, it's just so-so. But if you fill your page and go edge to edge, corner to corner, and you have multiple objects overlapping, because some things are in front, some things are behind, it'll be way more interesting to the viewer and to the artist. So I'm looking up at my still life right now. I'm looking up every 3 to 5 seconds, because I want to be able to draw what I see, not what I think I see with my imagination. Actually look at what you're drawing. So I actually have a pumpkin right here in the foreground, in the front. I'm going to just lightly sketch in the shapes that I see. It's pretty round and got a stem on it. It kind of curves. So I'm just lightly getting in the objects that I see in my still life. And I have a vase of sunflowers next to it. And the vase is kind of behind the pumpkin, so you don't see all of the vase because it's behind. And there's some water in it, and some of the stems come up. And you know what? Some of them are going off the page, because frankly, some of my sunflowers are dying. So I don't want to show all the dead sunflowers, so I'll just have a few droopy petals, how sad. And droopy leaves, how sad. But it's very interesting because it's going off the page. Then I have a scarecrow. I'll get that guy in there. He's got a funky hat coming up. He's got funky straw coming out of his hat for hair. Alright. I'll just lightly get in where his eyes, nose, and mouth are. I'm not worrying about all the little details right now. I'm just sketching in where everything is in my composition. Alright, so his arms kind of there, legs come down. There's a piece of fabric covering his feet. I have another little pumpkin over here. It's almost a perfectly round pumpkin. So I'm picking 5 or more things. The biggest pumpkin of all is off to the side over here, and it bulges out. Maybe one more little thing here. I have another pumpkin back there. So I have filled the page. I've kind of gone edge to edge, corner to corner, top to bottom. I've filled it in. Just a light outline. The beautiful thing about chalk, you can erase it. If you keep it light at first, you can erase it. If I didn't get his shirt right, I could just erase that out and go back in and draw the way that I see it. Just like that. He's got some straw coming out of his arm there too. So draw what you see, really look up, and fill your page with whatever objects you have at home or based on the images that I put in the slideshow. Then after that, you're going to fill your objects with its main color. So let's say I was filling the object with its main color right here. This pumpkin is orange. So I'm going to use the edge of my chalk, just like I did with the apple. I'm going to lightly glide over the shapes on the paper that create the 3-dimensional pumpkin. I'm just lightly gliding and shading. I'm not going to get the whole thing, just part of it for you to see. Then again, your fingers are your blendy blend tool. I'm going to just use one right now, because when you blend that chalk, it makes a nice even coat, even layer. It's like you're painting with chalk in your fingers. Then I'm really going to use my eyes and observe the shadows and the highlights. So we did the opposite of our red apple was green for our shadow. The opposite of an orange pumpkin would be azul blue, believe it or not. So a little blue in the shadows. I'm really looking. There's a shadow here, a shadow down here, and that comes across just a little bit there. And I'm going to blend that up now. And it makes kind of a neutrally grayish brown shadow. If you go a little too overboard and get it too dark, you can just go back with your orange, just like we did with the apple. We went back in with red if our shadow got a little too dark, and you can blend it up and just get that orange back in there. Then, do you remember what we used for highlights? If you want it to be light, add some white. So I'm really looking where it's lighter, where the light's hitting the top of the pumpkin, because it's exposed to more light. I just put a little white in there, blend it out, and then there, just like in the apple, there's some really bright reflections. So the light really is shining on some areas and reflecting that bright light, and I'm just going to tap it out. Boom. For the stem of the pumpkin, it's mostly brown. We can use the dark brown, we can use the light brown, a little sandy tan. You can blend that up. Where it's really dark, you might go in your shadows as just the pure dark brown. And then of course highlights where the light hits it might be with that white. And you can tap it out. And again, if you don't like what you're drawing or you didn't get the highlight or shadow right, you can just blend it out and layer back on top with more chalk. So orange and blue are opposites. Now if I had this yellow scarecrow, a yellow scarecrow, the opposite of yellow is not blue. The opposite of yellow is not green or red or orange. The last colored table here at Gateway. What is the last colored table? Well, the yellow table's next to the purple table. So once I blend in that yellow, I'm going to try purple as its opposite contrast to see if I get a shadow. So I see a shadow on the shirt of our scarecrow over here and over here. It kind of creates a shadow on both sides. If I'm going to blend that, do you think yellow and purple might make a shadow? Let's see. Ooh, it does. It makes a nice neutral gray shadow. Perfect, so it's a little darker. And then again, I'll use my white for where the light really hits up on his face and his eyeballs too. He has black eyes, so I'll get my black out just for the eyeball. Boom. Now, this pumpkin down here, kind of like our apple, I'm going to use green because it's a green pumpkin. They do exist because I have one. I'm looking at it right now. I'm going to blend that green. And if you remember from the apple started out as red, but we used green to make its shadow. Do you think if I start with green and add red, it would create a shadow too? I bet it would. So I see a shadow here. The fabric creates a little shadow. There's some over here. There's some under the stem. Let's see if green first and then red makes a shadow still. Well, our experiment worked. It is still a shadow. It doesn't matter which color you start with. As long as you're using those opposite colors, you'll still get a nice shadow. Except this time, instead of getting pink like the red and white on the apple, you'll just get a lighter green. Boom. And then I'll show you some other examples. Once you fill in your whole page, you might even want to do your artist's signature in the corner, or a little background color as well. So here I even have a white pumpkin and some corn That also represents fall. This drawing was done when my sunflowers were still alive and well. Imagine that. But then I'll also show you, you don't have to use chalk. If you have crayon or oil pastel, you can also create an awesome still life of objects. So things in the front overlap the things behind them. So you can do that. And if you use chalk like I did, I forgot to tell you in the last video, a way to keep it from being a dust storm is that you can spray it with something called fixative. But if you want my special secret, I go to the dollar store and I just get old hairspray and I spray these chalk drawings with that hairspray lightly, and once that hairspray dries, the chalk isn't dusty anymore or go all over the place, and you can hang it up and don't worry about smudging or making a dust storm. So that's my little trick. So not only can you make shadows with contrasting complementary colors, but you can also spray your chalk drawings with hairspray and they won't make a big mess afterwards. So that's all I have for you today. Good luck. Keep up the good work. Let me know if you have any questions, comments, concerns, but I love seeing everything you guys do. Adios.